Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Highlights from David Schwartz at Ondo Finance and the Federal Reserve talking about stable coins. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.32 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off by 1.9%. Bitcoin, 97,800 plus. Ethereum, 2,700 plus. Tether at the number 3 spot. And we see number 4 spots, XRP, at $2.40. We're off 0.1 on the 24-hour. And we're off 22.4 on the 7-day. Well, we need to see this turn around, and I think it's going to. But let's take a look at the range of price. Ranging between $2.28 and $2.43. We are sitting at $2.39. We'll keep an eye on it. Right now, I do want to remind you about all the exciting people that are coming on board at XRP Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you've gotten your ticket or not, you're going to see a great show. And if you haven't gotten your ticket, I'm encouraging you highly to get your ticket. Now, just let me tell you, previous year's experience here, as we get closer to the conference, the tickets start to accelerate. And our first year, we sold out. I don't want that to happen again, and then people can't get a ticket. Now, I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but I've seen it happen. And it breaks my heart when people send me messages and DMs and emails and like, can I just get a ticket? I just need one, and we don't have it to do. So look, the president of the Digital Chamber, Cody Carbone, Chris Giancarlo, the former CFT chairman and the head of the Digital Dollar Project, CEO of Rippe, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Uphold, Simon McLaughlin, CEO, founder of Blueprint, Dr. Chris Brummer, one of the highest decorated Georgetown law professors, Kevin Maloney, CEO of iTrust, Stephen McClurg, founder of Canary Capital, Austin King, Omni, Mark Otto, Monerex, and we know Monerex is the first bank on the XRPLedger. Come on in. Nancy Beaton, Chief Revenue Marketing Officer at Uphold. Keith Grossman, the president of Enterprise at MoonPay, baby, on stage. That's what we're talking about. Oh, we've got more coming. Did you get your ticket? Link underneath the video. Don't mess around. Listen, we're already at record numbers. Every ticket that's sold is a record number. And I'll tell you something. I have never sold tickets before February 15th. And we're already at record numbers. Don't mess around. This thing absolutely can sell out. So don't play around. The link's underneath the video. Let's do this. All right. During the BIS conference, I got to tell you, they have officially stripped Bitcoin of its unit of account title. Oh boy. And BIS, for those that don't know, aren't aware, don't remember, BIS is the central bank of central banks. Now let me just bring this in. He's asked a question. Well, I better give the whole thing to you. It's a minute.
The time will permit, so I'll be very selective. Yes. First question, and then we'll get some questions from the audience if time permits. But the Bitcoin was cited as an example that was introduced to address payments and other shortcomings that were perceived in the market. But in practice, it's more of a speculative investment instrument. Do you see a future in which cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance play a larger role in the payment space?
So unless they're tied to the unit of account, they're not going to make any sense, right? The volatility is too high. The stable coins are the only ones that are going to be useful. In a world in which everything in the universe was denominated in Bitcoin, that would be different. But I don't think it's ever going to happen unless it's through stable coins.
Okay. That stings a little. So does this. I'm going to bring you in at 1 minute. They're sitting here talking about the Fed. This is the representative from the Fed here. Shout out Subjective Views for this. Saying we need a good stable coin regulations and soon. Let me bring you in 1 minute here where he starts this. And I want you to hear what he says and then think about the real USD and the level of transparency it got. And then we're going to go to highlights of David Schwartz at the Ondo Finance. I tell you, you just listen.
Just like commercial bank money is a synthetic dollar, these things just open up other payment possibilities. And if they can do that in a way that opens competition, broadens the reach of the payment system, drives down cost, makes things faster and cheaper, I'm all for it. I don't have any issues. Now, with stable coins, there are some issues, right? So it depends on whatever the model is that you're doing it. The typical model is I give you $1, you give me a stable coin, then you go buy short-term liquid treasuries, for example, with the dollar. And then you keep the interest rate spread. Now, the problem is we know those things have run risk attached to them. Somehow the value of the assets backing up the stable coin breaks a buck, and then people run on the thing. So these are things that do come up with stable coins, but they can be dealt with. You know, there are ways to do it. And the critical thing is what we need for stable coins is regulation, good regulation, and we need it now. So the faster we can do this, the better.
There you have it. Now you have a demand for the stable coin from the Fed, and they want it faster and sooner than they got it right now. Oh boy, things are going to happen quickly. Now let's start here. This whole thing is incredible, as you can imagine. It's David Schwartz. But this is a great conversation, but I want you to listen to the first clip. I am going to hop around a little bit here, but it's for the sake of time and you getting the highlights here. So take a listen to this first opening response from David Schwartz.
Watching, if you're just great to be here. You know, Andy and I have been talking all day about this convergence of the traditional financial world and the crypto world that has been building, that both of us have been such a part of for the last so many years. Talk to me from your standpoint, from building Ripple for so long, from going through the ups and downs at Ripple, being here today, what it means for you.
It's tremendously exciting. I feel like we really are on the cusp of a mass institutional adoption, both of DeFi and of other blockchain technologies.
Hello, that right there is a nice opener, David.
I think this is also like one of the key obstacles to mass retail adoption. A lot of people in the space previously thought that retail adoption was like the big wave.
Nope.
But I think institutional adoption is a precursor. You have to connect to where people are. You have to go to where the value is.
Bingo.
You can't build a new financial system from zero, ignoring the existing financial system where everybody's money is, where all the value is, where the real world is, trillions of dollars in value. You can't just say, oh, forget about all that. Let's just build something new over here. That doesn't work. And so I think this wave of institutional adoption over the next year or two is going to be what's going to pave the way for mass retail adoption. And then we can deliver on those promises. Like, we all want to bank the unbanked, but like the unbanked, like they have to be able to spend their money to buy groceries and pay their phone bill. And so we have to have that institutional connectivity. And I don't think there are any obstacles. I think that's and I think this conference shows that.
No question about it. And that is straight fire unloading that. Let's listen to this next question very quickly here.
You guys have shown a tremendous amount of resilience over the last couple of years and helped score some of the biggest wins from of the industry against those who doubted it.
Without CoinDesk's help, by the way.
XRP is in one of our flagship indices and was a top performer. It's been an exciting couple of months. Like, how has the perception of the firm changed from inside and outside? A lot of people are taking a look at Ripple that really maybe hadn't before. How are you thinking about conveying what the company does to people who are looking at it for the first time?
Yeah, it has been a huge difference. 4 years ago, we had what I called the worst Christmas ever when I found out that the SEC was suing us.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought that would just be the end of our business, and it could have been. And I'm glad to say that the industry eventually rallied around recognizing the regulatory overreach, and I think things have gotten obviously a lot better since then. More recently, the changes in the United States over the past couple month or so have just been unbelievable, and it has unlocked business in the United States, but also business overseas. I think a lot. I didn't realize this until the change happened. There were a lot of other countries that kind of take their regulatory cues from the United States, and so when the United States didn't seem serious, they didn't really seem all that serious either. Now there's more international competition to bring in innovation. I think now we also, Ripple has a new product, RL USD, which is a stable coin, which we think is going to be great for applications ranging from things like payments to DeFi, as a collateral, as a way of moving value from one place to another. And then, of course, the XRP Ledger adding DeFi capability. That's not the first generation of DeFi capability was very experimental, and it was looking for like absurdly high yield. It was gambling, let's be honest, it was gambling. That's cool, like that attracts people. Vegas was built on gambling, right? But like the next wave of real utility is going to be built around things that are much less interesting. A savings account is not super interesting. It doesn't provide high yield, doesn't have high risk. You don't check the balance of your savings account every day, but it has real world utility. And I think that avenue of real world utility that Ripple's leaned hard into is the tokenization of real world assets, from very useful financial products all the way to things like venture capital and real estate and that whole spectrum.
It's a really great idea to think of the fact that, stable coins are about to be embraced by the entire world, institutions, and then obviously that's going to lead to retail. Let's get more into how many stable coins might we see, David?
You mentioned RL USD, and Andy asked one of our guests this earlier, and I want to get your opinion on it. Do we need so many stable coins? What is going to happen in this world of stable coins as this industry becomes more mature?
We don't need that many stable coins. There's reasons why you might want more than one. There is actually some special.
Two, right?
well, one is diversification of risk, right? It would be really weird if we build this entire DeFi ecosystem that's all decentralized and it's all based on Ripple's reserve, and if Ripple collapses, the whole system. There might be people who don't trust Ripple. I don't know why they wouldn't, but and they wouldn't be able to use RL USD, and obviously the whole world, right? So yeah, you can make an argument that there's some small number. But there is some specialization that really does happen. Stablecoins aren't yield-bearing, and so that they're not volatile, and they're tied to jurisdictions. They're tied to particular entities. So you could sort of imagine a world where you have this proliferation of millions of stablecoins. I don't think that's, millions is obviously not true, but like a large number. I think there probably will be a bit of a shakeout and some consolidation. But I do think, 5, seems like roughly the right order of magnitude.
Right.
It really does. And I tell you, think about it. I mean, you've got PayPal, you've got Paxos, you've got USDC, you've got RL USD, right? And then there's Tether. It's hard to say where all of this will go, right? But nonetheless, I want you to take a look at this clip here as we move through this, because that first clip was really about the top down, about institutional adoption. I want to play this before we go to the next clip, because David's going to say some stuff in the next clip that really sets it up. But you remember when we watched this and covered this years ago?
As savvy about how to drive adoption. The only strategy that anyone could think of was a grassroots strategy. And that's not how the internet got adopted, right? The internet was adopted by government and military first. So it's
That's a key point. The internet was adopted not by grassroots, but by the top down, by governments and such.
That's the key point here. And that's the moment that we're in. And that's why we study things from years ago that people say, so we can kind of track the progress to see if things are still on track. Well, guess what? They're on track more than we ever thought. That's how I'm seeing this. Now take a listen to this, and I have another clip for you to hear.
Yeah.
And what's special about RL USD there? What are you going in with as the competitive advantage?
Remember, they have the green list at the NYDFS, and USDC does not.
Well, RL USD is issued through a U.S. trust based in New York State, which is like the gold standard for reliability. The reserve is just cash equivalents, short-term treasuries. It's audited on a regular basis. So as far as the compliance, it's a gold standard. It's backed by Ripple. Ripple has an enormous balance sheet. We've been here for a long time.
When he says it's backed by Ripple, we've been here for a long time. I'll tell you my takeaway from that, and I've heard Brad Garlinghouse say it too. That is the first time that you're hearing David and Brad over the last month since the launch of RL USD talk about the fact that Ripple could back the RL USD should it lose the peg. Well, you know what they'll back it with? XRP, because they have a lot of it. And that is the ultimate goal. That's a micro example of where the ultimate destination is to underpin the US dollar with XRP, the token, and so many different tokenized assets in a reserve that will give dollar dominance for the next 300 plus years, more strength to the US dollar than you've ever seen in the history of mankind and the creation of the US dollar. And the micro example of that working is XRP backing the RL USD stablecoin and those bonds. Don't believe it. I think it's still true. Oh, I love it. I love it. Keep listening.
We're being as transparent as possible. So to some extent, all of that is table stakes, but we want to make sure we do that exactly right. We're going to be using it in our own payments flows. There's going to be applications in DeFi, a movement of value across chain. I think as we turn that curve to mass adoption, not just institutional adoption, but mass adoption, there's going to have to be ways. If my money is over here and I need to buy groceries, like there's going to have to be ways to move. And I think the RL USD is going to be well positioned to be that sort of value movement.
No doubt about it. So now I want you to listen to this clip from 2017 Swell Conference. Take a listen.
View of how the world will evolve. And it's really how to dial that back and to make it tactical and real today and tomorrow. And I think if you want to enable an internet of value, you've got to connect the repositories of value. Right. And the repositories of value, as big as the Bitcoin value proposition is today, the banks own trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of assets. So if we want to enable an internet of value, we've got to connect the banks. And
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You got to connect the banks. Now let's listen to the last clip that I want you to hear here. Oh, I love where we're going.
Just work.
You mentioned institutional adoption as the next step on the way to retail adoption, that real mass adoption. What needs to happen from an infrastructure perspective for this industry to be ready for that?
By the way, the institutional adoption is the repositories that need to be connected, which is what Brad Garlinghouse and Rippe have been doing collectively for more than a decade now. Yeah.
Well, there's a whole bunch of different pieces that we need, but one of the big ones is we need products that just work, that are easy to understand. We need people to be able to get their money in and out very easily. They need to be able to pay at retail points of sale. On the institutional adoption side, compliance has to be worked out. We need clear regulations, particularly in the US. If you look at I used to think that, like, well, if the U.S. is not a friendly regulatory environment, just do it elsewhere. It doesn't really work. The U.S. puts its tendrils through. There are many people who are like, oh, we'll tokenize like U.S. treasuries, but we won't have a U.S. regulatory nexus. You can't build a business that way. So it's going to take institutions who commit and who stake out, space in a growing part of the industry.
It sounds like he just described Tether's business model as one that's antiquated and one that will not work in the world that we all know and live in. That's where we're at today. And you know what else? That's not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. We're going to the moon. Institutional adoption leads to mass adoption. Institutional adoption and mass adoption lead to a ton of friction that will call builders from all over the world. And by the way, you're going to bring a lot of confidence and credibility knowing full well that there are tokenized U.S. treasuries backed by Biddle and BlackRock on the XRP ledger. That is going to send a signal across the world that these are the trusted protocols and the place to be. That's how I'm seeing this come together. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I'll catch all of you on the next one.